Mzansi Coders, I'm so excited for today's tutorial. So we're actually going to be looking at something cool, right? So we have to find the first and last position of an element in a sorted array. So essentially they're saying that given an array of integers sorted in non-decreasing order, find the starting and ending position of a given target value. Okay, so if that target value is not found, then you just have to return -1. But in simple terms, essentially they're saying that if we give you a list or array and the target is 8, just give us the index or the position. In index is where that 8 lies, right? So in this case, we know that the position of 8 is 3 and the last 8 is 4. Okay, so we know that 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so I just want to be clear here that if there were 4 8s in here, then you will not actually focus on the 8s in between. You just have to find the first one and the last one. Okay, so I just needed to be clear there because I see that here they only gave us 2, so people might not actually be aware of that. Okay, that multiple 8s, like you can get 4 8s in here. So with that out of the way, also I just want to also raise this that they actually want us to kind of like write an algorithm that can actually run in logarithmic runtime, right? So we know that we can actually use a binary search algorithm, right? So before we kind of like jump into the code, I thought maybe some of you might not know what is a binary search, so it will be good to kind of like give some people an introduction what it means and how we're going to actually go about this. Okay, so let's jump to our white board and just to see how we can actually go about this. Okay, guys, so I made a pretty straightforward example in here, but essentially what's going on is that I'm just gonna erase this so that we can actually go through this from scratch. Okay, I'm just gonna erase it. Perfect. So we are given an array. Okay, so we can think of it as 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5. And we're told that our target is 2 in this case. Okay, so a binary search technique says to us that break your array into half. So by break into half, the simple means that just take the mid number, in this case is 3. Okay, so after you get it, then there has to be a condition. I'm just gonna write this condition. The condition has to check if 3 is greater than or is less than 2, or if is equals to 2. So the condition can be in 3 ways. So the first one, it could be that if 3 it is equals to 2, or 3 it is greater than 2, or 3 it is less than 2. Okay, so those are the 3 conditions that we gonna have to face. So which one is true in this case? So we can see that actually 3 is greater than 2, so this one is true. So when it's true, what does that mean? It means that this narrows our search, right? So when it narrows our search, we have to look at the left hand side, right? So by the left hand side, I mean we have to go to the left side of the array. So this side here, we don't focus on it because we will never find 2 here. 2 does not exist, so it exists in this side. Okay, so I'm just going to use a yellow color here so that it's easy for all of you to understand. So 2 exists this side, so we apply the same condition in a loop. We go through, so let's say here we can imagine that actually here it was 1, right? So our mid number now is 1, so we just do the same thing. We go through the same condition. We ask if is 1 equals to 2, is 1 less than 2, is 1 greater than 2. In this case, we know that 1 is actually less than 2, right? 1 is less than 2. So what does that mean? It means that we have to go to right. Okay, we have to go to right section. So when we go to right section, I'm just gonna use a red color so that it's easy for you to understand. So when we go to right section, we're gonna get 2. Hope you guys actually were able to understand. I'm using these terms left and right because those are the terms that we will actually use in our code. We're going to be using right and left. So you have to make sure that you understand what I just told you now, whereby I mean left and right, okay? So you might be wondering why we're doing this. So you can actually imagine that if we had billion numbers in here, right? We had like billion records in here. So what would then happen in this case is that now you're gonna have to like if you're using a brute force solution whereby you're saying, okay, I'm just gonna loop through everything, then you can imagine that this will be inefficient because now you'll have to go from 1 to billion record, right? But using this technique, the binary search technique, what we're doing is that we're always cutting our our array into half. So we don't have to focus on 500 million record. We're just going to focus on the second half. And we're also going to cut that half. So you can imagine that this is way, way, way too efficient. Okay. So that's why we call it a binary search technique. So we're going to write a code that can actually achieve that for us. So let's jump back to the code, right? I hope those who didn't have an idea of a binary search, they will be able to understand. So cool. We're going to have our binary search here. So it's going to take the low and the high index, and it's going to take the condition. You still remember the condition that I just spoke about now? So true, left, right, that condition, right? So that was two. So now we're going to have our while loop. So our loop will actually have to look at the low index if it's equals to or less than high index. Okay, so why are we doing this? It is because we're actually saying that we want something to be in an array. So you can imagine that if you don't have anything in an array, then you will never have a high index. Okay, so you will never have a low index. Okay, guys, so this condition here is very important for us to have. So let's go to get a mid value for us. Okay, so to get a mid value, we just take the low and we actually add it with high, then we divide by 2. So this division in Python essentially removes the decimal points. So we can actually look at an example. So for example, let's take I think, let me just zoom in. So we can actually take 7 and divide it by 3, right? So this will give us 2. So essentially that's what we're trying to do, is that we're trying to avoid getting those decimals. So if we did not have this sign here, so we're gonna actually be getting 2.33. Okay, so we don't want that because we want the mid index. So in the let me just show you what we're gonna be getting. I think it's 2.33. Yes, so we don't want this, we just want the index, because this, we can use this to subset our array. Okay, cool. With that said, then we're just gonna say if we're just gonna get the results. Sorry about that. So results, because we're gonna have a condition that we're gonna write, the condition that I told you about, which will check if it has to go to the left, right, or it is found. So we're gonna have to write that condition later on. So the condition, like I said, it will return found, left, right. So if the results equals to found, so we just want to return mid, right? That means we have found the position. Return the mid. Then we just want to say if results equals to left. Okay, so we're just gonna say less than update a high, mid, minus 1. So what am I saying here? So let's go to the whiteboard and let's try to understand what is it that I'm trying to do here. I think that way you guys actually will be able to understand much better. Okay, cool. So what I'm saying is that if we have an index, right? If we have an index of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? So because I said that we're gonna have to cut the list or an array in half, and we're gonna have to discuss the other half. For example, you can imagine that we discard this one. So we're not gonna look inside here because we know that we're not gonna find the target inside this half. Then we have to then update this high index. So let's say this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the index here is 5. So we're going to have to update it to make it, it's going to be 2, right? If we say that the mid was 4, so if it was 4, then it was just going to be 3 minus 1. Okay, then we know that we're going to get 2. Then this will be our new high. Okay, so then because this is our new high, that means we're going to look inside here only. Okay, so our low will be intact. But also, if we have to look on the other half, on the other side, then our low will actually change because it will be the one that now takes the mid row, right? It does not take the mid row, but it just takes the mid index. So low will then be 2. Then high will just be intact, will be 5. Okay, then that means we're going to have to look in the other half. Okay, guys, so I hope that actually makes sense. That's what we're doing here. So when we're getting the results that says left, then we just have to update our high, our high, right? But things now, the results can be right. We don't actually have to say else if results equal to right because that's the last condition. So we can just say else. Then we're just gonna say else equals to low, mid, plus 1 because we're updating the mid to be plus 1. Okay, then we're just gonna say return minus 1 if this condition is not true. Okay, so let's look at our first function. So we're just gonna call it the first condition, right? So this is going to be the condition that actually find us it's going to actually find us the first position of an element. Okay, so what we need to do is that we're gonna give it the mid element. Okay, so we give it the first the mid element. Then the first thing we're gonna have to do is to actually check. We're gonna take an array that they gave us, right? So we're just gonna say if nums mid equals to target. So that's the first thing that we're gonna do, right? So we check if the mid number is equals to target. Okay, so if that's the case, however, it can be the target, but because we have to find the first element, so there's a condition that we have to check first. So we have to check if the mid is greater than 0. So this is just to say our element on an array must not be the first position. Okay, so must be like greater than 0, must not be the first position, like must not be, for example, 5 in this case. Okay, so that's what that condition checks. And we want to check if nums I'm just gonna say mid minus 1. Okay, so what this condition checks then is to say because we have to check the first element, so we have to check if like there are no what's on the left hand side of the target. So if there's something, then just move to the left. Okay, so let's say for example, let's say this 7 here, was the target. So then the first thing that we want to do is to check if there is 7 on the left hand side. If there is, then move to the left hand side. I don't know if I'm making sense, guys. So I'm going to make an example again. So let's say the 8 was the target, right? Was the mid number. This is an example. The first thing that we're going to do is that we're going to go to the left hand side. We're going to check if 8, there's an 8 on the left hand side. Okay. So if there is, then we're going to have to go to the left because, like I said, we have to find the first position. So imagine if you were going to take 8, then it's not a first position because there's an 8 on the left hand side. Okay. Hope that that makes sense. That's why even this condition says mid is greater than 0, because if 8 was here, then you can't go to the left hand side, right? You can't go to the left hand. There's no value to the left hand side. Okay. Hope that makes sense. If that is that, then equals to target. Okay. Then what we're going to do is that if this is the case, then we want to go to the left hand side. If there's a duplicate, if we found 8 and it's actually equals to target, then go to the left hand side. If that's not the case, then we know that we've actually found the right element. Okay, so we're gonna actually return found. Okay, guys, so let's look at the LE part of things, right? So we're gonna say nums, then we're gonna query this. So we're gonna say nums less than target. If it's less than target, what we wanna do is that we wanna return to right. Okay. So what we're saying here is that if we find a value in an array and it's actually less than target, so we return right because we want to go to the right hand side. Okay, and else we know that the only condition here, it could be that we have to go to the what is it, left hand side, right? Because that means num is greater than target. That's the condition. Like I said, we have 3 conditions. The first one is going to be equals to target. The second one is going to be less than, or is going to be greater than, just like I showed you in the whiteboard. Okay, so that's it, we're done. So we're just gonna, you can literally copy this. Actually, let me copy it so that we actually make our life easier. We don't have to write the second part. So we're gonna say last position. So there's something that I want to understand. I think actually I didn't explain this part here. So this is saying that if num 8, for example, let's say here it was 8, right? Or the target is 8, and let's say here our num is 7. So we have to check if it's less than the target, right? So if it is less than the target, then we go to the right portion of things, right? So we have to go up because we know that 7 is less than 8. So we know that means our target is on the right hand side. It can't be 3, it can't be 2, it can't be 5, because those are less, right? We have to go to the right. Those are the ones that are going to be on the left hand side. Okay. And here I could have actually write this condition here, but I didn't because that's the only condition that is left, right? Greater than, if mid is greater than target. So there's no need for us to write it. But for explicitity, for people to learn, it's fine. We can actually write it and say, if num is greater than target, go to the left hand side. But just for us to learn, just for ease of coding, it's fine. So here, this is quite interesting, right? So now turn the table around. So we're saying we're looking for the last position. Okay, so we're gonna do the same thing. If num equals to target, then the first thing that we want to do this case, because now we're working with the last element, so you can imagine that 8 could have been here, right? It could have been on the last element. So what you want to do then, to avoid going outside of the list, which is going to give you an error. So you have to kind of like say, you're going to have to say mid if it's less than length. So let's just say length of, what is it? Nums. Okay. So nums, then we're going to just say -1. So here, like I said, we're just taking the length of an array because we don't want, like, you can imagine that if 8 was the target and it was here, we don't want to go outside of an array. So we're always going to make sure that we are not beyond, so to speak. Okay. So mid number must be less than this. And this must be plus. Like I said, now we're going, like I said, if this is the first position, we want to go up. So that's why I'm saying that plus there, right? So we want to go, if 8 is here, then we want to go that side. Then that's the target. Then we here, we're going to have to return right because we want to go to the right hand side. Okay. So you see how we're changing small things, honestly. So that shows how easy this can get, right? So else return found, if num is less than target, return right, else return left. Okay, I think that's all. Then we're gonna just return everything now. So we're just gonna have to return 2 values. Like they said, we're gonna have to return 2 values. So we have to return generic binary search, our generic binary search. Okay, then we're gonna have to say 0, 0 because that's the first index. Then we're gonna have to say length of nums -1. Okay, that's like the length. So this is what we're providing here. You still remember here on the binary search is low and high. Like I said, this is low because of it's a first index, and high is the highest index. So that's what we're doing here. The first index, we know it always be 0. Then here we're just taking the length and we minus by 1. Okay, guys, I hope you got that first part right there. So you're just gonna copy this first condition and it just paste it here. So we know that this here will always return mid, right? Always have to return mid. Where is it? So it's a condition. Yeah, it's a condition that has to take mid function. Perfect. So I'm just gonna copy this for ease of use. I'm gonna have to put a comma there. Then we're just gonna do the last condition. Paste this. Okay. I'm not sure if I missed something, but let's test our function, guys. It looks like we had a error. Unexpected indent. Let me see. I think could have been here. Perfect. Look at that, guys. We did it. Our code was actually expected. Okay. So thank you guys for joining me. I hope you guys learned a lot, but we're gonna look at other problems. So I hope you guys join me in the second tutorial. Thank you. Bye.